Welcome back to another episode of Tabletop That. In this episode, we will be crafting Madame Eva's tent, located at the top right of the Tser Pool Encampment map. Let's dive in. Step 1. Grab your tools. For this craft, you will need a glue gun for gluing the tent to a base and for gluing the substructure together. You will need a dry brush for highlighting your paint job. You'll also need a regular old craft brush. And you'll need a crappy brush for painting watered down glue onto wet paper towels. You'll need an X-Acto knife to cut out the substructure, paper towels, and the base material. Oh, and you'll need a pencil and a ruler for measuring and marking out the substructure and base. Step 2. Grab your materials. For this project, you will need foam board for the substructure, medium weight chipboard for the base, Elmer's glue for coating and putting on the tent cover, paints for painting, glue sticks for gluing, paper towels for the tent cover, and some water for cleaning paint brushes, watering down the glue. Oh, and you might get thirsty. Step 3. Cut out the substructure. Looking at the map, we start with the ridge line, which will be 6 inches by 2.5 inches. To the left and the right of the ridge line, we will need a total of 8 side panels, 2 inches long and 2.5 inches at the ridge line, sloping down to 2 inches in height at the sidewall. First, we cut out the ridgeline piece, marking out 6 inches by 2.5 inches. Next, we mark out 8 pieces of foam board at 2 inches by 2.5 inches, and then cut them out. After all the pieces have been cut out, you will need to mark the long side at 2 inches and then cut a slope in each of the 2 by 2.5 inch pieces. I found that after you cut out the first piece, you can use it as a template to mark and cut out the remaining pieces. Next, grab your glue gun and attach each of the 2 by 2.5 inch pieces to each side of the ridgeline piece. Make sure that each piece is evenly spaced and that you are gluing the 2.5 inch height side of the small pieces to the ridgeline. You could measure to make sure the distances are even, but I just eyeballed it. Step 4. Cover your substructure. For this next step, you will need to cover your substructure. I learned this trick from Scotty over at the channel DM's Craft. I'll leave a link to his channel below. It should be your first stop if you haven't checked out his site yet. It's pretty impressive, and Scotty seems like a really great guy. Dampen your paper towel and then apply it to the substructure using PVA glue. Once you have your first layer on, go ahead and apply a 50% water, 50% PVA glue solution to the towel. Apply a second layer of damp towel, and then repeat the step where you apply the 50% glue, 50% water solution to the top layer. Now, if you look at the image on the map, the tent has a top cover that is a different color. I decided to experiment and add another layer of damp paper towel to the top of the tent and would paint it a burgundy color, making it stand out from the rest of the tent in the final stage of the painting process. Step 5. Base your tent. I let the tent dry overnight. Then I used the X-Acto knife to trim off the excess paper towel. I didn't do anything special here when creating the base. I just sat the tent down on some chipboard and marked it out. Once marked out, it was just a simple matter of using the X-Acto knife to cut out the shape. I then used the hot glue gun to glue the tent to the base.
Step 6. Paint your tent.
I started with a base coat of tan Craft Smart acrylic paint. I basically just covered the entire tent. Then I used some black paint to paint the interior of the opening. In the next to last step, I mixed some red and black paint together and painted the top of the tent to match the image on the map. Finally, I applied a dry brush of some suede paint to hit the highlights. And there you have a perfectly usable tent for Madame Eva. And that concludes another episode of Tabletop That. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, feel free to hit that thumbs down button. Leave comments below and hit that subscribe button if you're so inclined. And until next time, have fun and keep crafting.